Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the observation port of the research vessel New Horizons, her breath fogging the reinforced glass. The sight before her defied comprehension. Thousands of wrecked ships floated in a massive debris field, their twisted hulls catching starlight like broken mirrors. Each vessel represented a different species, a different civilization that had met its end in this cursed system. "My God," whispered her research partner, Dr. James Chun, joining her at the viewport. "It's like a museum of galactic civilizations. Look at the variety in hull designs, propulsion systems." "A museum built from corpses," Elena replied grimly. She was a Zen archaeologist, used to studying dead civilizations, but this felt different. This felt personal. Captain Sarah Mitchell's voice crackled over the intercom. "All senior staff to the bridge. We've got movement out there." Elena and James exchanged glances before hurrying through the corridors of their small research ship. The New Horizons was hardly a warship, just a converted science vessel with basic shields and no weapons to speak of. They'd come here following reports of ancient technology, not expecting to find a graveyard. The bridge was cramped but efficient, dominated by a large holographic display showing their surroundings. Captain Mitchell stood at the center, her weathered face tense with concentration. At 35, she was young for a ship's captain, but she'd earned her position through skill and determination. "There," she pointed to a massive shape emerging from behind a shattered crystalline cruiser, "our mystery ship." Elena's heart stopped. The vessel was enormous, dwarfing even the largest wrecks around it. Its design was unlike anything in the galactic databases, sleek yet menacing, beautiful yet terrifying. Strange symbols glowed along its hull, pulsing with an inner light. "It's beautiful," breathed Dr. Chun. "It's also scanning us," reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. "High-intensity scans, much more advanced than anything we've seen." Captain Mitchell moved to the communications console. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Earth research ship New Horizons. Please respond." The bridge fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat as they waited for a response that might never come or might be their death sentence. Then the ship moved. It wasn't the graceful drift of a vessel under power. This was predatory, purposeful. The ancient warship turned toward them with fluid precision, its weapon ports beginning to glow. "Shields up," Captain Mitchell barked. "All power to engines." But even as alarms began to wail, Elena noticed something strange. The weapon ports were glowing, but they weren't firing. The ship was just watching them. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called out, his voice tight with confusion. "The scans have changed. It's not scanning our ship anymore. It's scanning us, the crew. Our DNA, our neural patterns, everything." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't random destruction. This was evaluation. The question was, would they pass the test? The voice came from everywhere at once, not heard, but felt deep in their minds. It spoke in perfect English, though Elena sensed it could have communicated in any language it chose. Humans. The single word carried layers of meaning, curiosity, assessment, and something that might have been hope. Captain Mitchell steadied herself against the communications console. "Yes, we're human. Who are you?" "I am the arbitrator. I have waited 3 millennia, 9 centuries, and 47 years for your kind to find me." Dr. Chun stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. "You were waiting specifically for humans? How did you know we existed?" "I did not know. I hoped." The ancient ship moved closer, close enough that Elena could make out details. On its hull, the glowing symbols weren't just decorative, they were part of some vast computational system. Equations and formulas flowing across the ship's surface like living text. "Many species have found me. The reptilians came first, proud of their conquest and strength. The ethereals followed, masters of energy and thought. Then the insectoids, with their perfect unity and purpose. Dozens more after them. What happened? To them? Elena asked, though she already knew. They failed. Each believed they were the apex of evolution, the destined rulers of the galaxy. They looked upon my power and saw only a tool for domination. Captain Mitchell frowned. And you killed them for that? I tested them. They destroyed themselves through their own choices. The ship's hull began to shift and change, panels sliding away to reveal a docking bay that shouldn't have been able to fit on a ship that size. The interior glowed with soft, welcoming light. You are different. Your species intrigues me. Will you come aboard? Elena looked at her crewmates. This was the discovery of a lifetime first contact with a technology beyond anything in known space. But it was also potentially a death trap. Why should we trust you? Captain Mitchell asked bluntly. Because you are the first species to ask that question. The admission hung in the air. Elena realized the terrible weight of what the arbitrator had just revealed. All those other species, all those wrecked ships, they had rushed toward power, without questioning the cost. We'll need to discuss this as a crew, Captain Mitchell said carefully. Of course. I have waited this long. I can wait a little longer. But as the ancient ship held position, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this was a test too. Not of their technology or their power, but of their wisdom. And their survival might depend on getting it right. 3 hours later, Captain Mitchell led a small team through the arbitrator's docking bay. Elena and Dr. Chun accompanied her, along with Lieutenant Torres and Chief Engineer Rodriguez. They'd left half the crew aboard the New Horizons with strict orders to flee if things went wrong. The interior of the ancient ship defied physics. Corridors stretched farther than the external hull should have allowed, lit by panels that seemed to generate light from nothingness. Gravity felt normal, though they detected no rotating sections. Welcome, the arbitrator's voice resonated through the walls themselves. You honor me with your presence. This is incredible, Dr. Chun whispered, running his hands along walls. That felt warm to the touch. The technology here could revolutionize our understanding of space-time. Technology is merely a tool. It is the hand that wields it that matters. They entered a vast chamber at the ship's heart. The ceiling arched, impossibly high, filled with swirling patterns of light that might have been star maps or might have been pure energy. At the center stood a crystalline structure that pulsed with the same rhythm as a human heartbeat. This is my core, the arbitrator explained. From here, I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I have seen species achieve wonders, then destroy themselves through pride and ambition. Elena approached the crystal structure carefully. What are you, exactly? Are you artificial intelligence? Something else? I am what you might call a custodian. My creators recognized that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. They built me to find a species that could break the cycle. What happened to your creators? Captain Mitchell asked. The lights dimmed slightly. They destroyed themselves despite all their wisdom. In their final moments, they gave me this purpose, to find beings who could succeed where they had failed. Lieutenant Torres was studying the walls with his scanner. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout this ship. The power core alone could supply Earth's energy needs for centuries. Indeed. And that is why most species who find me see only opportunity for conquest. They dream of using my weapons to subjugate others, my knowledge to elevate themselves above their rivals. Dr. Chun looked up from his own readings. But that's not what we want, is it not? Tell me, Dr. Chun, when you look upon this technology, what do you see? Elena watched her colleague struggle with the question. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the war between scientific curiosity and human ambition. I see. Possibility, he said finally. The chance to learn, to grow, to help our people advance, but I also see danger. This kind of power ... He trailed off. Continue. This kind of power could corrupt us, could turn us into the very thing we've always fought against. The arbitrator's crystal core pulsed brighter. And there lies the first test passed. You recognize the danger inherent in power itself. But Elena sensed there was more to come. The ancient ship hadn't waited 3,000 years just to give them a philosophy lesson. Now comes the true test. I will show you my capabilities, and you must choose what to do with them. But know this, your choice will determine not just your fate, but the fate of your entire species. The chamber around them began to shift and change, reality bending as the arbitrator prepared to reveal its true power. Elena gripped Captain Mitchell's arm. I have a bad feeling about this. Your feelings serve you well, Dr. Vasquez, but the test has already begun. The chamber dissolved around them, replaced by a stunning holographic display of the galaxy. Billions of stars wheeled overhead, connected by lines of trade, communication, and conflict. It was beautiful and terrible, a living map of galactic civilization. Behold the current state of the galaxy, the arbitrator intoned. 17 major powers locked in a delicate balance of fear and ambition. The reptilian empire enslaves entire systems. The ethereal collective treats other species as experiments. The machine unity converts worlds into computational matrices. Elena watched the display with growing horror. Red zones marked areas of active conflict, while purple indicated slavery. Yellow showed resource extraction, and black represented dead worlds. My God, Captain Mitchell breathed. We had no idea it was this bad. Your species remains isolated in your small corner of space, largely unnoticed. This has been your protection and your limitation, but that isolation ends now. The display zoomed in on human space, a tiny cluster of perhaps 50 systems, insignificant against the galaxy's vastness. The reptilian empire has noticed your expansion. Within 2 of your years, they will arrive with a fleet designed to subjugate your worlds. Dr. Chun stepped forward. You could stop them. With your power ... I could. The question is, should I? Lieutenant Torres was studying the holographic interface with amazement. Captain, this ship's weapons could destroy entire fleets, maybe entire planets. Indeed, and here lies your test. I offer you 3 choices. The galaxy display shifted, showing 3 different scenarios. First, I could destroy the reptilian fleet before it reaches human space. Your people would be safe, but you would never grow strong enough to defend yourselves. You would become dependent on my protection, eventually no different from the species the reptilians have enslaved. The display showed human civilization stagnating, comfortable but limited. Second, I could give you my weapons technology. Your ships would become unstoppable, your empire supreme. But power corrupts, and within generations you would become the new oppressors. This scenario showed human ships subjugating other worlds, humanity transformed into conquerors. Third, I could teach you to build what your species truly needs, not weapons of destruction, but tools of growth and understanding. The knowledge would be harder to use, requiring wisdom and cooperation. Many would die before you grew strong enough to stand alone, but those who survived would be worthy inheritors of the galaxy. The final scenario showed humanity struggling, learning, sometimes failing, but ultimately emerging as a force for unity rather than conquest. Elena felt the weight of the choice crushing down on her. You're asking us to choose our species' entire future. I am asking you to reveal what that future should be. Captain Mitchell was quiet for a long moment, studying each scenario. What happened to your creator's enemies? Did they survive? Anne: excellent question. They survived, flourished, and eventually became our allies. My creator's greatest victory was not their destruction, but their transformation. Dr. Chun looked troubled. But if we choose the third option, people will die. Whole worlds might be lost while we're learning to defend ourselves. Yes, the hardest. Choices require accepting difficult truths. There is no path to wisdom without sacrifice. Elena realized they weren't just choosing for humanity, they were defining what humanity would become. The easy paths led to either slavery or tyranny. Only the difficult path led to growth. But could they make that choice for their entire species? You have until we reach the edge of your space to decide. After that, the choice will be made for you by circumstances. The chamber returned to normal, but Elena could still see those three futures burning in her mind. How long do we have? Captain Mitchell asked. 6 hours. 6 hours to choose the destiny of humanity itself. The human crew gathered in the arbitrator's conference chamber, a circular room where the walls displayed constantly shifting patterns of light. Elena sat across from Dr. Chun, while Captain Mitchell paced at the head of the table. The weight of their decision pressed down on them like a physical force. Let's think about this logically, Dr. Chun began, pulling up his personal tablet. Option 1 guarantees immediate safety but condemns us to perpetual dependence. Option 2 gives us power but corrupts us. Option 3. Option 3 asks U.S. to gamble with billions of lives. Lieutenant Torres finished grimly. Captain Mitchell stopped pacing. The arbitrator said its creator's enemies survived and became allies. How? Elena had been thinking about that too. Maybe the struggle itself changed them. Maybe fighting for survival instead of conquest made them grow in ways they couldn't have otherwise. That's a hell of a gamble, Chief Rodriguez muttered. He'd been quiet until now, but Elena could see the conflict in his weathered face. May I interject? The arbitrator's voice filled the chamber. You are struggling with the same question my creators faced. They could have chosen the easy path, used their superior technology to dominate the galaxy. Instead, they chose to elevate others, even at great cost to themselves. And they died for it, Dr. Chen pointed out. They transcended. There is a difference. Elena felt a chill. Where did they go? That is not for me to say, but their legacy lives on in every choice made, with wisdom rather than fear. Captain Mitchell resumed her pacing. Let's talk about what we know about humanity. We've had wars, but we've also had peace. We've enslaved others, but we've also fought to free them. We're not saints, but we're not demons either. The question is what we could become, Elena said. With great power, would we use it wisely? Dr. Chun looked up from his tablet. History suggests we might not. Every empire falls eventually, usually because power corrupts its leaders. But we've also shown we can learn, Lieutenant Torres argued. We abolished slavery, we created international law, we're slowly learning to work together as a species. You speak truth, Lieutenant. Your species shows remarkable capacity for growth. This is why I waited for you. Elena stood and walked to the wall, placing her hand against the warm surface. The patterns beneath her palm shifted to show images from human history, wars and peace treaties, discoveries and disasters, acts of great cruelty and incredible kindness. We're not perfect, she said quietly, but maybe that's why we're the right choice. We know we're flawed, so we keep trying to be better. Captain Mitchell nodded slowly. The other species the arbitrator tested, they believed they were already perfect. They saw power as validation of their superiority. Precisely. Pride was their downfall. But humanity ... You doubt yourselves constantly. This doubt is your strength. Dr. Chun closed his tablet. I've been thinking about the reptilian fleet coming. For our worlds. If we choose option 3, how many people will die before we're strong enough to defend ourselves? Unknown. But I can tell you this, those who die will die free. And their sacrifice will ensure that future generations remain free. The room fell silent. Elena could feel the moment crystallizing around them, history pivoting on their decision. We need to vote, Captain Mitchell said finally. But remember, we're not just choosing for ourselves. We're choosing for every human who will ever live. Elena looked around the table at her crewmates, good people who dedicated their lives to discovery and understanding. If they couldn't make this choice wisely, who could? All in favor of option 3? Captain Mitchell asked. One by one, 5 hands rose into the air. It is decided then. Humanity chooses the difficult path. But, even as relief flooded through Elena, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real test was just beginning. Epilogue. The long road home 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the New Horizons as they entered Earth's solar system. Behind them, moving with impossible grace, came the arbitrator. The ancient ship had insisted on accompanying them home. Your species will need time to prepare, the arbitrator had explained. I will remain until you no longer need my guidance. The past months had been a whirlwind of learning. The arbitrator had shared knowledge gradually, carefully, not weapons or shields, but principles of physics that could eventually lead to both. Humanity would have to earn its defenses through understanding, not receive them as gifts. Dr. Chun joined her at the viewport, his face thoughtful. Do you think we made the right choice? Elena considered the question. Already, the first arbitrator-inspired technologies were being tested in labs across human space. Medical advances that could extend life. Agricultural techniques that could feed billions. Energy systems that could power civilization without destroying planets. But there were also weapons research programs starting up, and political factions demanding the arbitrator share its military secrets immediately. The corruption had already begun, just as the ancient ship had predicted. I think we made the only choice we could live with, Elena replied. Wise words, the arbitrator commented, its voice now as familiar as an old friend's. Perfection is not the goal. Growth is. Captain Mitchell's voice came over the intercom. All hands, prepare for Earth orbit insertion, and ... Welcome home. Elena watched their blue world grow larger in the viewport. Somewhere down there, humanity was beginning its greatest test, learning to wield great power without losing its soul. The reptilian fleet would arrive in 18 months. By then, human ships would be faster and stronger, guided by principles the arbitrator had taught them. But more importantly, they would be crewed by humans who understood that strength without. Wisdom was just another form of weakness. The first lesson begins tomorrow, the arbitrator announced. Are you ready? Elena smiled, thinking of all the challenges ahead, the political debates, the ethical dilemmas, the desperate race to prepare for war while preserving their humanity. No, she said honestly, but we'll learn as we go. That is what I hoped. You would say? Outside the viewport, Earth continued its ancient rotation, unaware that its children had just passed their first test in a galaxy full of dangers. The real test, the test of what humanity would become, was still ahead. But for the first time in 3,000 years, the arbitrator had hope. And sometimes, hope was enough to change everything. Final note, the story of humanity and the arbitrator was just beginning. In the years that followed, other ships would come to test humanity's growing strength. Some would be enemies, others potential allies. Each encounter would force humanity to choose again between the easy path and fath, the right path. The arbitrator would remain, watching and guiding, until the day humanity no longer needed a teacher. That day was still far in the future, but it would come. And when it did, the ancient ship would finally complete its mission, having found the species worthy of inheriting not just the galaxy, but the wisdom to keep it whole. The dangerous starship that had rejected every alien had found its human partners at last. And the galaxy would never be the same. The story continues.